Hello and welcome to Titanic, A Legend Reborn. I'm Mickey Hansen. What is about this ship that fascinates us? Is it because so many people died on this ship? Is it because she was one of the largest ships to be lost? What was it because of the many mysteries behind it? Nobody knows, but this ship has gained a lot of publicity in the 80 years that she has went down. And I've also been personally attracted to the ship. I was hooked on it when I saw this videotape right here, Secrets of the Titanic. I was 6th, 7th grade. I listened to it, and boom, I was interested. And the 7 years later, I've read some of these other books that you might see here. Yep, we have right here Frank Stallone's Titanic, Daniel Steele's No Greater Love, Michael Davies' The Titanic, A Ghost from the Grand Break, author C. Clarke. And on the other side, we have A Night to Remember, Her Name Titanic, Beyond Reach, Search for the Titanic, a book that was written by Jack Grimm's second expedition to the wreck in 82, The Night Lives On by Walter Lord. These and many other novels have been written by several authors about it. But this one right here has probably really started the mystery right here. It's A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. And here, right here is a picture of the wreck. Right now I'd like to show you one of the drawings right here. This was written in pictures shortly after the disaster, and it shows the various decks of the ship as well as the supposed iceberg that sank the Titanic. Now we go on a little further. This is Captain Edward J. Smith and his purser, Hugh McElroy. Both men had went down with the ship. Captain Smith was a very well-known captain in the White Star Line, and had served aboard the White Star Line for 30 years and had been taking the Titanic on her maiden voyage as a parting shot. This is John Jacob Astor. He was one of the more wealthy people aboard the ship. He had just got divorced and was taking a second wife on a honeymoon, Madeline. He too died on the wreck. And I'd now like to show you the ship itself. This is, of course, the Titanic. She was the second of 3 sister ships that was built to counter the countered threat of the Lusitania and the Mauretania. Her two sister ships were the Olympic and the Britannic, which had also which had served in World War I. The Britannic as a hostile ship, being torpedoed just 8 months later, and her well-known sister, the older sister, the Olympic. It had plowed the Atlantic for 24 years and had served as a true transport during World War I, and then finally after the disastrous collision with the lightship Nantucket, the decision was made to scrap her. Now then, as you see, the books here have been just some of several books that have been written on the Titanic, if you ever want to read them. A lot of these books you see here are offered at the Allen County Public Library. But now, getting on maybe about 70 years later, in 1985, on September 1st of that year, a joint expedition by the French shipment Freemer and the Woodsole Oceanographic Institution were a joint expedition to look for the wreck. There had been several attempts and several rumors of salvage, but so far nothing conclusive. But then on September 1st, 1985, a boiler was found. And here is that Argo shot of the Argo. This is Argo right here. This was the vessel that had been used to find the wreck. It had been built just a few months earlier, and was proven technology. It was used for a concept Bob Ballard had called telepresence. For the first time ever, a person could get live shots of the bottom. And the Titanic expedition was just a maiden run. A year later, another expedition was launched to thoroughly explore the expedition, and it was later determined that the ship had broken in two sections. And this is the bow section as it looks today. As you can tell, it's not a pretty sight. This thing towards the right hand of the screen is the foremast that had toppled over during its descent to the bottom. And this thing right here is called the forecastle. Those four things that looks like circular things are called capstans that were used to moor the ships in place. And the smaller pair of things towards the sides of the ship were called bowlers back in 1912. And this is an aerial shot of the ship. The ship was so big that they had to take several pictures of the ship and show it in one mosaic. As you can tell, there's the first funnel, and here's the second funnel, and towards the end, here's the third funnel. The ship had four of them. The third one was a fake used to balance out the ship, and the belief back then was that if a ship had more funnels, it was a lot better. What they didn't know was the funnel towards the end was a fake, used to, yes, as to show some prestige. Now I'd like to show you some slides of the Titanic that was taken both during the 1985 and 1986 expedition. Now this one was taken by another sled called by the Angus, that short ballistically navigated geological underwater survey. And what you see here is some debris towards the end of the stern. Now this is some of the engines. Now unlike the stern, which had just glided to the bottom, the stern had fallen to the bottom with the impact very similar to a bowling ball of the Eiffel Tower. And as this picture shows, that's very obvious. You can see some of the metal gears and other gadgets. Okay, this is further debris. Some ladders. The thing on the right is your something from the stern, and also some other debris. Now this is the anchor cranes. Whenever baggage was loaded, these anchor canes would take luggage and load it aboard ships. Now these things were inside the well deck. The picture I just showed you earlier, it was toward the middle of that. Now as we go on further, now this is what's known as the forecastle. You again see the two capstans, the bowler, and you see in the middle two lines. Those are the anchor chains. Now it's said that the chains, not the chains, but the anchors were so big that 20 draft forces were needed to pull them to Belfast to the ship. Now this is another section, another picture of the forecastle, showing pictures of the railing and also a little bit of the bowlers. Now this is the grand staircase. It was one of the most well-known parts of the ship. Jason Jr., the little robot that had been used during the A6 expedition, along with the Alvin, was used to explore the wreck. And as I'll show you later, one of the pictures he took was of a chandelier. Now this is the first funnel. The funnel was so big it could emit a locomotive. All 4 of the funnels had broken off as the ship sank. The first funnel, it collapsed on top of John Jacob Astor, thus mangling his body. More debris. The image on top is a platter used to obviously give food, and also bits of coal. Now, the Titanic, being a rather large ship, had taken several tons of coal to operate. There had been a strike among White Star Line and other shipping lines, so the decision was made to take all the coal and all the passengers to the Titanic. Now this is from the 1986 expedition taken by Alvin. Now those things right there are called russicles, as Bob Ballard dubbed them. They were produced by iron-eating bacteria that are attached to the ship and need an aesthetic environment, so they use the ship to support themselves. Bob Ballard estimates that after 75 years, these creatures will undoubtedly finish the ship, and there'll be nothing but a bunch of debris here and there. Now this is a mast light, which was used on the foremast of the ship. Now this is part of one of the beds aboard one of the first-class suites. It was an honor for anybody to serve on the Titanic, whether you were first class, second class, or steerage. What you see here is bedhead from the first class section. Now this is the ship's wheel. The wooden part of it had long since rotted away, but as you can see, the steel part of it, in spite of 80 years of submersion, it still gleams as if new. It is the solitary structure still left on the wheelhouse, which was supposedly having crushed as the first funnel fell on top of it. And that thing on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, that's the part of the cage for Alvin, which had hold Jason Jr. This is one of the toilets. It's like bronze. Porcelain also survives very well in the Titanic. Now that little guy you see on the left, that's Jason Jr. He was built as a prototype for a larger vessel that would be used on first expeditions, which would be named simply Jason. Jason Jr. was designed to explore parts of the wreck Alvin couldn't safely go. It was used to explore the grand staircase, the gymnasium, and also used to get close-up shots of various objects. Here's Jason Jr. again, leaving his cage and getting ready to explore the forecast of the ship. This is the chandelier I was telling you about earlier. It was the only one that was explored in close detail. Jason Jr. had went and poured decks into the ship to take this fantastic shot. Now this shot Bob Ballard and his crew because when you got a ship going the speed of a freight train, you don't expect something like that to survive. But apparently this thing did. Now, this is a close-up shot of the bitts or the bollards. Whenever the ship was moored in place, the ropes would be wrapped around them and then around the capstan. Now, this is the crow's nest. It's from this very site that Frederick Freet and Reginald Lee saw the iceberg and given the signal, "Iceberg dead ahead, sir." And then Murdoch gave the order, "Hard starboard and the engines full astern." But the Titanic, going way too fast for ice-infested waters, ran right into the ship, thus causing the fatal gas and sinking her. Again, this is the forecastle towards the very bow of the ship, and you see more rusticles and other things. Here's Jason Jr. again, checking out the gymnasium. The gymnasium was fixed up on the very top of the ship and was very popular with the first-class passengers. And a lot of people, there were a few people who were in the gymnasium when the iceberg struck. And it was said that John Jacob Astor had taken one of the life jackets, cut open to show his wife Madeline that it was sound and that they wouldn't drown. As you can tell, there's been several pictures taken of it during the 1985 and the 1986 expedition. This man right here is the one who had that dream. His name is Dr. Robert Ballard. He had had this dream since 1977 when prompted by his good friend Bill Tantum, vice president of the Titanic Historical Society. But unfortunately, a few years later, his friend died of a stroke. But Bob Ballard carried that dream with him. After several unsuccessful attempts to raise funds, in 1985, as you well know, he did it. And he was also part of the 1986 expedition where they thoroughly explored the wreck. And during 1987, they finally came out with this composite of how they think the ship sank. And here we go. Now, the first drawing shows how the ship slowly started filling up with water, sort of like an ice cube tray, from one compartment to the other, and the next picture slowly starting to sink as the first funnel started to break off. Now, right here, picture number 3, it starts achieving a 45-degree angle as the second funnel starts to break off. And then in the same motion, the third and fourth funnel break off, and the bow hurtles to the bottom. While the bow is one-way trip to the bottom, the stern rights itself, pivots a little bit before it too starts sinking beneath the waves. It's believed that as the bow plummets to the earth, plunges to the bottom, the stern rotated a little bit, with debris falling to the bottom. And then this shows you exactly how the bow hit. It ran right into the ground, the mud, slammed down itself, and then collapsed. And the last picture shows the stern section. It, like I said earlier, hits it with the same impact the bowling ball would drop from the top of the Empire State Building. Bob Ballard described it as utterly being bombed, shelled, and torpedoed. Till this is what it ended up looking like. And then, as you can tell, it's not going to be a pretty sight. Here we go. This is what the stern looks like today. As you can tell, it's gone through it's gone through a lot of damage, and it's hardly in recognizable condition. This little thing you see here is called the Alvin I was telling you about earlier. It had been used during the 1986 expedition to explore the wreck along with Jason Jr. and had been proven itself in all expeditions. Later on, Bob Ballard had left a plaque, actually 2 plaques on the wreck, as a memorial to the 1,522 people who died in the wreck. This was the plaque. Just as Bob Ballard had left the stern, this was left on the ship to remember Bill Tantum, the Titanic Historical Society, and more importantly, the more than 1,522 people that had lost their lives in the tragedy. Bob Ballard's wish was that the wreck would be left alone, but unfortunately, a year later, an expedition being run by the French inframer had brought up several artifacts from the wreck, including the safe, several several dishes, and strangely enough, even a newspaper with the ink still on it. But a lot of the survivors that were alive then were outraged, and that insult upon injury, the artifacts were being displayed on a show called Return the Titanic Live, hosted by Telesavalas, and had been, and on that special they'd shown the safe, opened it, and then showed several artifacts that had also been recovered from the wreck. A few years passed before another expedition would come the expedition. At that time, the Soviet Union was one country, and they had sent out 2 submarines called Mir 1 and 2 to thoroughly explore the wreck. Mir, by the way, in Russian means peace. And these 2 subs, working with several Americans, had also explored the wreck and had also made valid discoveries. Well, that's all I got right now. Like I said earlier, if any of you are interested in the Titanic, these videotapes right here are available at the library. This one's called Titanic, A Question of Murder. This one was the one that got me started, Secrets of the Titanic. This one covers both expeditions as well as their disastrous maiden voyage. And this one I got through interlibrary loan talks about her younger sister, the Britannic, which, as I said earlier, had been mine torpedoed off Athens. Well, I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope that you plan on visiting your local library soon and reading about the Titanic. I thank you for your time, and have a good day.